Thank you for auditing Professor Sky's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's excited to get to show off some of his dish towels today. I'm going to be talking about the album As Days Get Dark by Arab Strap. Now listen, I talk about this a lot on the channel. Between 2002 and 2018, I paid virtually no attention to new music. So I missed Arab Strap. I guess they released some stuff beforehand. I remember I heard their name a couple times, but apparently they haven't made music for 16 years, so I haven't missed that much. So I'm sort of jumping in to this band right here, right now. And it's a little bit odd that I haven't listened to them. They are a very Scottish band. You can hear the accent through the singer's voice. And I have a sort of, that sort of American connection to Scotland, right? That's where, well, my name, Skye, I'm named after a Scottish island. I've been there, it's quite nice. There's this place in Scotland, I've been there a couple times, called the Towered Castle. And it's where the Clan Lament used to live. And those were my people. And in the middle of the night, Clan Campbell came in and took them and threw them into the river and drowned the entire family. I'm also related to Clan Campbell. So there's this beautiful castle where I can go and just sort of exist in a place where this hatred and animosity that existed, centuries ago is now resolved by my very existence. So I love Scotland. I've been there a lot. And as a matter of fact, in the middle of this episode, I will have a chance to tell you what is literally my favorite joke. It happens to be a dirty joke that involves music and has to do with Scotland. Which is pretty good because this is a pretty dirty album and it has to do with Scotland, and it's also quite funny. It turns out this band is not from any of the more known places. This is my favorite dish towel from Scotland. So you see here, this is the map, and they're from Falkirk, which is right there. It's a little place, kind of close to Glasgow and all that. If you ever, I would suggest going there. By the way, this is 2 episodes in a row now where I'm being Mr. Tourism Guide, but they have this weird thing that I got to go on. It's called the Falkirk Wheel. You can't believe it. You go on a boat and they lift you up like 40 feet so that you can get across this canal. It's quite an amazing place. So that's where they're from. I've been there and it's interesting, but I don't want to focus too much on the Scottishness of the album because I don't think that actually really matters except for the accent. What I want to do though is I do want to focus on the cover of the album. Now, I don't always spend a lot of time with covers. Quite often covers are not that revelatory. They'll just be an image of a person, just fixing my collar here. They'll just be an image of a person, or they'll just be an image of something kind of cool or kind of mysterious. But really, Arab Strap lays out the entire album with this cover. So I'm just gonna put it up there. This is my production value right here. I'm not going to edit. If I edited, I would not do 3 to 4 videos a week. So what we see here is a sort of consciously rough cover. And the album itself is kind of consciously rough. We sort of images within images within images. If you look carefully, you'll notice this is essentially a cropped screenshot of the person's computer screen, which is another reason why it makes sense I'm showing it to you like this. Up front, we have this painting, which I did a little bit of research on. It's called The Knight Escorted by the Geniuses of Study and Love. Okay, so that's supposed to be the knight. That woman is supposed to be the knight. And then this is love, and that's study. It's by a Brazilian artist from the 19th century. Never thought about that. Pedro Américo. And it's a lot like the album itself. A lot of it's concerned with the night. A lot of it's concerned with love and work and a difficulty with coming to terms with what one does during the night, a sort of darkness, coming to terms with one's sort of sketchiness, I guess one's seediness, one's dirtiness. Maybe that's even the best term, coming to terms with one's dirtiness. And then speaking of that, look what's behind that. What's that? That appears to be a very pale Scottish shoulder. I have 2 pale Scottish shoulders. But it appears to be a picture of a woman in some state of undress. We see that she's wearing some kind of lingerie. That will figure in later in the album. A lot of this album is about sexuality, especially middle-age sexuality. If you don't want to think about middle-age sexuality, don't listen to the lyrics on this album. Listen to the album anyways, because it's a good listen, but that's what the themes are all about. And then behind it all, we have this sort of random desktop photo. I don't know what that is, that wallpaper. It looks like just some sort of Scottish apartment building or house, I don't know what, okay? So this is a really good idea of what the album is like. It's just sort of like these different kind of pictures. It's kind of dark, it's a little bit obscure, it's a little bit dirty. The amateur nude is important. The amateurness of this album and of the feeling is filled with these stories, kind of like pictures. They're filled with stories, and they're mostly stories of, I guess old age, but really middle age, okay? I doubt they're much older than me, but a lot of it's just about sexuality and just the relationship that one has to lust and to monogamy and to pornography, and the whole thing, it's all delivered with this very thick Scottish accent, you know? And I don't know if that makes it seem dirtier. I can't tell, because I'm an American, so all accents, you know, I have a weird relationship with accents because I am lucky enough to live in a culture which basically has eliminated accents as much as possible. I'm not lucky, unfortunate, really. So, like, I don't know what it is, but it seems to me that perhaps the Scottish accent increases this feeling because it's so thick. But the main thing is all the lyrics are delivered like right next to the microphone. Like he's just talking to you. And it creates a very unpleasant / pleasant intimacy. Unsettling. Discomforting. Let me think of other words. Discomforting intimacy. But again, an album that can achieve intimacy is achieving something all the same. It's all like guitar and then like a drum machine. And this guy's voice. But don't let that fool you. If you listen carefully, this is actually a very beautifully developed album. It's actually, I would even go as far as to call it lush at times. The production is so deceivingly complicated that you can just listen to it and just think, oh, whatever. But then if you really pay attention song by song, you'll hear layers of synthesizers and layers of guitars and just like subtle movements that are kind of obscured by this guy talking about the full up, you know. I don't do a good Scottish accent, even though I'm from Scotland. And well, full up, just there, all up in your face is this accent and this voice that you can lose, that behind it, there's a lot of gentleness happening. So it is a very good album. I don't have a Scottish mug. I still have my Joe Cool mug. I used to have a Scottish mug, but it broke about a decade ago, which actually fits within the theme of the album. So, how do we actually talk about this album? I am going to go through track by track, but definitely it is a very unified album. It has the one sound of guitar, loud voice that sings and talks, but mostly talks, and lots of themes. But what I'm going to do is, all the lyrics to the album are not up yet online. A few of them are on genius.com, one of my favorite websites. And I just happened to notice this morning, I was getting ready to do the video, and I was re-looking at the lyrics they have. And the opening track, The Turning of Our Bones, what they have written is just perfect. So this is my homework. If you've never heard them before, or you don't know what this album sounds like, click here to listen to the song, The Turning of Our Bones. This is what I'm going to be talking about as an example of the album, okay? Now the funny thing is, on genius.com, sometimes they annotate the music. And the way that they annotate the music is actually a perfect description of what this entire album is like. Look at the way they describe it. I don't know who did this, but whoever they are, they deserve a lot of respect here. So I don't know if you can quite read that. That doesn't come across too clear. Yes, it says ominous guitar music. Ominous guitar music builds. Ominous guitar music builds with disco beat. That's pretty much what most of the album is like. Ominous guitar builds, ominous guitar with disco beat. And then the opening lyrics to the album, which is basically one of the theses of the album. I don't give a fuck about the past or glory days gone by. All I care about right now is that wee mole inside your thigh. Yeah, yeah. A little too uncomfortably intimate. Toby, out. Toby, out. Sorry, my dog's here, and he's just gonna sit on the dog bed. And he gets in this mode where all he does is lick. So you might hear some licking in the background. It's just Toby. Toby, out. No one wants to hear it. Even if it roughly matches the thematics of this album of kind of disgustingly close. Okay, so the whole thing begins with the turning of our bones and this great feeling and this sense of I don't care about the past and we're just gonna keep going and I care about the mole and this kind of theme of like sexuality and just like closeness, and meanwhile, all the way, the lyrics are not just gross. They're not just like little tiny sexual details. Sometimes they're also really kind of deep. You know, it talks about, you know, we're all just carbon and water. To a certain extent, this song is not so much about sexuality as much as it is about age. He talks about the aging around the eyes, and I can tell you as somebody who is in their 40s and films themselves 4 times a week, I hate all this stuff here drives me up the wall. I don't know where that came from. I don't like it. I want to say it makes me look like Clint Eastwood, but I think it just makes me look like a baseball mitt. I can't do anything about it. So he is definitely describing with some accuracy what this feeling is of getting older and these like weird carnal details. Thinking of saying carnal, it reminds me of the word carnage. I do think this album goes well with Nick Cave's album, Nick Cave and Warren Ellis's album from last week. I think they are thematically kind of linked with just sort of old scoundrels talking about aging. Again, you want to talk about deceptively rich? Listen to this song. Like there's this building and these droning notes and everything. Just the song, you can just think it's just guitar and disco beat, but it goes so much deeper. Funny turn of the line: the flesh is willing, but the spirit is weak. It's kind of a funny inversion of the famous saying from the Bible. Next track is called "Another Clockwork Day." Okay, I like these guys. I do. This song is interesting because it is completely about masturbation. Okay, so first of all, I have to deal with the fact that my son's friends watch my channel and everything I say that's embarrassing comes back to him, so I apologize. But it's all about masturbation, and it's about the boredom with pornography. That's sort of the first theme. And he even talks about the sort of weird, disturbing trends in modern pornography. You know, like so much stuff about stepsisters and so much stuff about like tattoos and scars. So, you know, I can, you know, as a cultural observer, I can relate to that, and I think that's an interesting theme that he brings up. But what makes the song interesting is he goes beyond that to describe somebody looking into their computer files, probably looking into the same computer that was used to make the image, and finding old pictures of a lover that were sent to him, and the lover in various stages of eroticism, from very graphic to not very graphic, always told poetically, right? There's no like gross words, but it's all pretty clear what he's talking about, and it's all very kind of graphic. So what makes this interesting is that it keeps going, and it's, you know, he refers to the images by their number, you know, IMG 9473. So it's a great commentary on the nature of modern love and romance and eroticism and amateur pornography, and just the fact that we can share these images and keep these images. You could almost put it in the context of, you know, photographs by the Kinks, you know, like thinking about photographs of older people when they're younger. But the song saves itself from this kind of, I don't know, boring time flies theme. By the end of the song, after he finishes, he goes into his bed. He goes into bed where his wife is. And you learn that it was his wife all along that he was looking at, and that she doesn't look any older. And with his glasses off, she looks just like she did in those pictures. So it ends up being a really sweet song, a really sweet, lovely song. And it turns out that what he's masturbating to isn't like her youth or fertility or anything like that, hot young teens or whatever. It's not that. He's actually jerking off to romance. It's a romance wank. And that's kind of sweet, because that's the thing that's really missing in pornography, is that human connection and that love, which is what he has in those images. So I don't know. I've listened to a lot of songs about a lot of different sex acts in my life and in doing this channel, and this is up there as one of the best. It is a loving, sweet tribute to the nature of monogamy. Guess what the next track is about? The next track is about polyamory. Okay. I don't quite get what these guys are doing. They make this great thing all about the beauty and love of monogamy, and then they end up doing this track here. It's called Compersion, which apparently, I looked it up, is about the feeling of happiness you have when your lover is sleeping with somebody else. Not like an erotic happiness, but just like a spiritual happiness. So, I don't know. You know, I'm a man of the 21st century, and I've heard all of the arguments for polyamory and all that, and I've been around, I've known a lot of people, done all this stuff. It's not for me. But what makes the song interesting is that it's not really clear what his message is. It's clear that he's talking about doing this, but it's not clear if he's talking about liking this. The whole thing has this kind of gross feeling to it, like fluid connections and hotel rooms, and you just like it has that feeling, kind of like that picture underneath the beautiful painting of the night, you know, like it's just a little bit just gross. And then makes it even interestingly it ends on a poetic line, but their dyad is dividing now as vintage vows recede. So, like, is this actually killing their marriage? Is it not? I read one interview somewhere with the lead singer who says that it depicts the quest to find the ever-elusive unicorn. That's another term in polyamory referring to like a third person being your couple. To bond fluidly and safely with the like-minded and adventurous in the comforting arms of an anonymous hotel. Here's the important part. ... And the stark realization that you never really wanted it. So maybe this is back to being in favor of monogamy. I can't quite tell. It's a big theme of the album. Next track, Bluebird, seems to be another song about masturbation. It's a little bit more sweet. If you weren't listening to lyrics, or if you didn't understand English, you might think this was just kind of a nice love song, but he just keeps on saying over and over again, I don't want your love, I need your love, don't love me. Very kind of confusing. I'd like to understand the song better, although I don't. It does refer to something called a shite hawk. The shite hawk is nocturnal. And I like this idea. I like British slang, British and Scottish slang of the word shite. I think it's a great word. And then instead of a night hawk, a shite hawk. That's great. That's my router up there, by the way. That's called the night hawk. And whenever we have to turn off the internet because my son is playing video games too late, we call it, we're going to night hawk you. So maybe I should change it to shite hawk you. Next track is Kababylon, kind of a funny title, very strong guitar line, a really cheesy saxophone solo, but like a good cheesy saxophone solo. This album has a lot of those cheesy saxophone solos that are really funny. I bet you're still wondering, when am I going to get to my joke? Not yet. Has these nice layered synth horns and even jams out well. Tears on Your, it's a song all about crying a lot when people die. Here's a thing you might not know about middle age. People keep dying. And when you're old, you know people keep dying, but when you're middle-aged, you don't really expect it. A lot of people die. Parents, grandparents, whatever, uncles, aunts, whatever it is. So thank you, Arab Strap, you weird Falkirkians, for writing a very good song about coming to terms with the tears that you have to shed in middle age. Really nice kind of drum machine on here too, almost like intentionally cheesy, I think. Reminds me a little bit of like a Phil Collins like drum beat. Here Comes Comas is the next track, and this feels like it's linked to another track later. This is if I were to tell you there's an album that's mostly drum machine and guitar, you'd think, oh, this is supposed to be some kind of 80s album. The whole album doesn't actually sound consciously 80s at all. This one maybe a little bit. And this is like a weirdly moralizing song about somebody who encourages you to do bad things, encourages you to be a scoundrel, to do drugs and sleep around. But it has maybe the most catchy chorus with kind of an odd time signature, and I believe it's tied to the song after this. It's very strange how these things go together. I don't know what his policy even really is on sleeping around. I can't really tell if he is for or against like cheating or like wild sexuality. We're going to get to that, but before that, we have the fable of the urban fox. This song, so I am a language teacher, right? That I legitimately am. I don't just pretend to be a professor on YouTube. That's what pays my bills. I'm a $40 on YouTube, but you can't live on that, right? So I often look for things that are good topics to teach, like good songs that are good to teach with. And I think this, Fable of the Urban Fox, would be a great song to give to children, to teach them about immigration, like the nature of immigration and cruelty. It is a fable. It's a fable in the true sense of a fable with talking animals and a moral, but it's all about the foxes basically being chased out of the out of the woods and the country by being hunted by people in red coats, right, like fox hunters, and trying to move into the city and not finding anything and meeting a lot of cruelty. You know, my teacher brain wants to go to France and teach this song to French teenagers and have it be like, well, what's the song really about? Is it really about a fox? Or is it really about immigration? It sounds like I'm making fun of it and being condescending. I'm not. It's a great song. It's well done. And I think it's necessary. And also, you know, the whole immigration question, we should probably be talking about it more than we are. We should probably be having more songs that actively show empathy towards people who are forced out of their homes or who have to flee to save their families. We aren't talking about this enough as a society. Not in England, not in France, not in America. We need more songs like this. So thank you for taking a break from your weird, gross, middle-aged sexuality to tell us something in a good and interesting way. Did you think I was done with weird sexuality? I'm not. I was once a weak man. Now this is a song that I was hoping was going to be, when I read the track listing before hearing any music, I'm like, oh, is this going to be a song about how when he was younger, he used to like be weak, but now he has like the strength of his convictions? No. This is almost a hip hop song in its music. Has like this kind of like these hip hop strings. Reminds me a little bit of the thong song. Like Miami style bass, like doom, doom, really strong bass and like a string breakdown. But it's really all about this guy who just is a pickup artist. He was a philanderer. I have to come up with all these different words of saying people who sleep around a lot. You know, he has like a second cell phone and he sneaks around and he doesn't use names. But it's got a really catchy melody and it's all around this theme of this really sad character who's super proud to be who he is. To be a pickup artist who sleeps around with a lot of women and is unable to make those kind of connections. I'd like to compare this song to Another Clockwork Day, because the person in Another Clockwork Day is actually happy. You know, yes, they're jerking off alone in their study in the middle of the night. Okay, that's not particularly happy, but we see compared to this person, they are happy, because the song ends with him asking, am I getting too old for this? And then a totally unexpected punchline, which is going to lead to my joke. Well, Mick Jagger does it, and he's older than me. That's literally the end of the song. I'm telling you, this is a very funny album. So this guy who's a philanderer, am I getting too old for this? Well, Mick Jagger does it, he's older than me. Are you ready for the joke? Okay. What's the difference? I didn't write this joke, by the way, but I heard it, and I find it to be one of the funniest jokes of all time. What is the difference between Mick Jagger and a Scottish shepherd? One says, hey you, get off of my cloud. The other says, hey MacLeod, get off of my you. You have to understand that there's a joke about shepherds having sex with their sheep. That's part of the joke there. And then the other joke is, of course, that MacLeod is a typical Scottish name. And of course, the other part of the joke is that you is a word for a female sheep. Hey, you, get off of MacLeod. Hey, MacLeod, get off of my you. That's literally my favorite joke. And it's pretty funny to have this Scottish band and then talk about sexuality and Mick Jagger. It all just goes together. And it's funny, and when I was in Scotland even, I was house sitting for a month in Glasgow, in the Tony area known as Bearsden. And I was house sitting for a 17th century professor who was Irish. And he was famous for always telling the dirtiest jokes. So there's a lot of sort of like weird cross-cultural dirtiness going on here. So, did you like the joke? You can put it in the comments if you thought it was funny. Or give this a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I don't know. I'm at 10,000 now, which is super exciting. I don't know what I want to do about myself. Next track is called Sleeper. It's kind of a long, extended song about life and existence and probably alcoholism. It's weird because last season of Rick and Morty, there's an entire episode that takes place in a train that has a very similar metaphorical structure about like the nature of one's life and how different trains represent different parts of your life. I doubt they're connected, but I just happened to notice that. It seems to be like the least structured song. It's the longest song. It's the longest tale. It's kind of a painful, sad song about sort of arriving at terminus, the end of your life. Finally, we end with Just Enough, which is almost an uplifting song. I don't think the album's depressing. it's unsettling, but this is almost uplifting. It's like a snap sound. It sounds even like the Nintendo Switch sound effect. If you ever watch their commercials, piano, guitar, most kind of organic sounding, and then you actually hear the title in the song as days get dark. I do like it when bands save saying the title of the album to the last song. It's a nice move. And just some great examples of these lyrics that this guy's able to write. Because I haven't really emphasized the quality of his lyrics, but they're so good. And they always are, they're never like gratuitously dirty. They're never like simple, but they're also never too overly obscure. Like you know what he's talking about, but he's able to talk about them in such a way that's a little bit off. You know, so he talks about taking off all of our clothes and then says, only darkness hides our body from the light. And like, or does he say night? Jesus, which does he say? I think he says only darkness hides our body from the light. But either way, it's a good lyric. And either way, it's a good example of the kind of thing where he's talking about nakedness, he's talking about vulnerability, and he's able to do it just in a slightly different way. And the album ends, Call for Love Without a Sound. So it does end on kind of a weird kind of down note of somebody who's looking for love. So there's my review. There's my review of Arab Strap. I don't know if their other music is something I should listen to. If you are an Arab Strap fan, please tell me, like, is this their best work or is there other stuff better? Did I miss some things in this album? I am curious because it's just such a weird album. It's just so weird to listen to, and it's hard to really like know how to sink your teeth into it. I also want to thank the auditors in the community section of the channel. I am reviewing this because it was your suggestion. I don't really know what to review this week, so that I just said, hey, what should I review? And this was the #1 recommended thing. And I like it. I had something to say. Okay, well, for Mick Jagger and for poor Shepherd McLeod, there's the camera.